Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
We're so thrilled to have back on multi-platinum, Grammy Award winning guitarist and producer, the one and only Pete Anderson.
That's a mouthful.
And not nearly enough.
Sorry.
Not nearly enough
Okay.
to talk about all of your accolades.
Oh, my God.
And you know, it's so great to have you back on the show. It seems like yesterday, Pete.
Yep.
Especially when I turn on my TV and I see you on a music video with Dwight from a few years ago, just kicking it on guitar.
More than a few years ago, but yeah. I watch him too. I was like, who's that guy with the dark hair and the black beard and the dark hair? Who is that guy?
And he's still rocking. And speaking of which, we got to talk about your brand new book that's out now, How to Produce a Record. I got to tell you, I've gone through a lot of these kind of books, Pete, and this is the only one that I've enjoyed reading.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that.
You know, but it's like, you got to tell me about this. I mean, how did you come about? I mean, you're known for being an incredible producer, and obviously all of the acts you've worked with over the years, and incredible, I mean, touring 3,500 gigs. You still play every Sunday out in LA. How did you make the time to write this book?
Well, first of all, the most difficult thing was thinking up a title.
Well, the nice thing is we have Pete Anderson at the top, too.
So when I ended up with Mike Molenda edited it. He was the editor for Guitar Player magazine for 20 years.
Incredible
So
writer.
he made me sound like I know what I'm talking about. Secondly, he said, well, my friend used to do all the artwork for Guitar Player. He'll do the artwork for your book. So I was like, so it looks kind of like Guitar Player. So I was like, extremely happy. So his name is Paul Phelan, and so I said, when I called him, we were doing the artwork, and he goes, what are you going to call it? And I said, How to Produce a Record. And he was like, he was sort of disappointed, like, look, it's tricky enough. I don't want to throw anybody off anymore by coming up with something, you know, like, My Cat's in a Tree. It's like, what is this about? And we were talking earlier, you and I, about, it's not a great marketing thing when you have to explain.
No.
But and bringing that up, the book is a broad psychological, social kind of way of producing records. It's not a technical book.
Which I like, Pete, because you're dealing with more the thought process, and that's, you know, and once again, from reading it, you know, this can apply to anybody, you know, any songwriter sitting at home trying to lay down a demo, somebody, you know, working with another friend, doing some recording. This works for everybody, because I've already stolen ideas from this that I'm going to use for the jingles and stuff I record.
Great. Yeah. Well, I mean, when I took 8 years to do the book. So, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it did.
I think it paid off.
I had all these papers scattered in my head, and every once in a while this would come up and that would come up. Anyway, when COVID hit, everybody freaked out. We know that, right? So myself and my assistant finally ventured back into our office together with masks on, going, what are we going to do? And I said, it's time to write the book.
Yep.
So we started writing the book. I did a headset where I could talk into the computer, a program called Dragon. And then I ended up with, fortunately, with Mike Molenda editing it. So it made, and he's a musician, so I didn't have to explain what I was talking about. So, you know, getting him involved was a big plus for us. But the thing about the book was, I researched prior to this many years ago. It's like, is anybody, how to produce a record? Produce a record. Look up, you know, Guitar Institute of Technology, Musicians Institute, North Texas State, Berkeley.
Right.
Nobody had a book. They had some about production, but they didn't have a book that taught it from my perspective.
I totally agree. They were, to me, you know, having read a lot of them and written reviews on them over the years, Pete, they were overly technical.
Oh,
you know, to where the average layperson, the average person could not pick up a copy of it and go, here are 5 things I can use.
Right, exactly.
It just wasn't
Well,
there.
we talked about that prior to this. Would be like, if you and I were at guitar school and we decided a bulletin board, they said, we're going to start a class called How to Produce a Record, and you and I go, hey, let's go do that. That'll be fun. And we're guitar players. We're musicians. We're not engineers or anything. The first day of How to Produce a Record is like, channel 1, 2 dB, signal flow. It'd be like, dude, I'm out of here. I don't want to know anything about that stuff. What do I do when the singer starts crying? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
So the psychology of it I'm a musician producer, right? There's 3 types of producers. Musicologist. Greatest musicologist producer was John Hammond Sr.
Totally.
Who signed everybody. His batting average was off the charts. From Robert Johnson to Bob Dylan to Bruce Springsteen, just everybody. engineer producers, which is someone that's an engineer with some musical skills that creates a liaison with a member of the band that's maybe the guy generating the song, so they can sort of produce together and be creative. And then there's a musician producer who I've sat on the floor with the headphones on while everybody's talking about me behind the glass, you know, and it's like, oh, they hate me, oh, they don't like this, or with 4 guys and each one of you is like, don't get this wrong. I mean, I remember being in sessions and go, hey guys, don't bury your head in the chart. I don't want to play this song again. I want to play it once and get one take stuff. So that psychology is where I wrote the book from, as a musician producing a record. So it's comfort, organization, tricks of the trade, a little bit of technical stuff, a little bit of stuff I like. I'm not the greatest guy to interview in a technical magazine because I go, hey, we got Pete Anderson, and what kind of mics do you like? It's like, the ones that work. You mean the SM57 that I used as a hammer a half hour ago?
Exactly, but if it works as a hammer and it still works.
It doesn't buzz and and signal flows through it, I'm on it. So,
but also I want to bring this up too, Pete, because I think you have done such an incredible job producing other artists, and what I like are key things like we were talking about with creating the hologram. The hologram theory, to me, that's a money. Right, just with that.
Right.
And you got to explain that to viewers, where it's like with the hologram.
Well, the funny thing is if I'd have written this book like 30 years ago, they wouldn't know what I'm talking about. There were no holograms. Anyway, basically, you want to be prepared when you make a record. And especially at the level that I was making them some years ago with Dwight, our records cost $300,000. Studios were, back in the 25 years ago, they were $1,200, $1,500 a day, and musicians. So the costs ring up pretty quickly. And one part of the producer's job is to watch the money and to come up with a budget and figure out how this is being doled out.
Right.
So in doing that, in thinking in that perspective, you sort of have to stick with your budget and work within the parameters of it. That's the most important thing. So.
And I think with the hologram statement, to where it's a multi-dimensional view of what you're going to create with the song.
Right. Well, exactly. Getting back to the hologram is that in pre-production, that's preparation.
Right.
Pre-production, if you've got a room and a table and a chair, it's free. So I can do a lot of pre-production where I get the tempo of the song, the key of the song, the basic arrangement of the song. Is there going to be a solo? What instrument do I think will take the solo? Is there a bridge? What does it need arrangement-wise?
But you're saving time and money before you're going in the studio, and a lot of people don't think about that.
But what I'm trying to achieve is that the artist and I, and most of the time have much more experience than the artist, so I'm kind of nurturing them. But I want both of us to see the album done. And I call it a hologram. It's like we're like it's done. We're like shaking hands. Hey, let's go get some tacos. Look at it there. Yeah, it's blue right there and it's green. It's like we're done.
But it's so brilliant when you distill it down that way. I think one of my other favorite chapters in here was like, I did not write this chapter. And you're talking about ghosting, and we both know that and you've been through many more recording sessions than me, but having people come in and, like in the book, to where you're talking about, to where the gal has her husband who is not a drummer that wants to play. And it's like going, wow, Jimmy, you sounded great. Get the drummer.
Yeah. Call Joey.
But that's honest.
It is. I went to the NAMM show one year, and I'm known as a guitar player. So I went to the NAMM show one year, and I wanted to buy a Lakeland bass. They make great basses.
Love 'em.
So I walk up to the Lakeland bass guy, and he sees me, and he recognizes me, and he goes, "Hey, Pete Anderson." I said, "Hey, man, how are?" And I was walking up to buy a bass, because I play bass. Right? I ghost bass. Let's talk. I ghost bass. So it should be called ghost bass, like it was Fender bass in the early days. So he said, "I know who you are," and I'm like, "Great." And I'm looking at the basses, like trying to figure out what I would buy, and he goes, "We should make a Pete Anderson bass," and I'm like, great idea. So I pick out this bass and everything, and then I see these pictures of some people on the board, and I said, if I really told you what I played bass on, a couple of these guys wouldn't be on the board right here. I don't want to blow it for anybody, but I play a lot of bass.
Right.
I play a lot of bass guitar.
But they don't know that you're playing the bass.
Right. Yeah. I left my wife is a recording engineer, and I left her in the studio with a bass player, and she just looked at me like, please don't do this. and then I gave her 20 minutes, and I walked in, and they couldn't see the eye contact, and she's like,
I'm like getting twitchy.
Don't do this to me. Get in here. Because I play bass from the perspective of like, marry it to the kick drum and make it dead simple. And I'm not trying to prove anything.
Well, but also, I mean, you and I both come from the same background. We're blues guys.
Right.
And so, the bass always served the song.
Yeah, exactly.
It was not there to be a solo instrument
it
as much as...
it was the carpet.
Yeah. It should be hooked in with the drummer, and that forms the foundation.
I call it a tone generator for the kick drum. It gives the kick drum a note value.
Yes, exactly.
That's it.
But I mean, I got to tell you, with this book, to me, it feels like, Pete, that it can be a curriculum for a lot of, and I know you've already spoken, at studios, like at Blackbird and everything, but I think even for like Belmont, for Berkeley, for so many, music universities, this is a great tool to give people, not just the tech side, but the true philosophy. I mean,
I would love
the
that.
real world experience.
Yeah, I would love that.
So I'm sure you're going to be doing like more speaking engagements and everything else with this too, right?
I hope so. Yeah, I don't have anything booked, but we're just rolling out. This is the first 6 months of rolling it out.
And my suggestion was also an audio book recorded by Pete Anderson.
Okay. All right.
I'm just saying, I think people might enjoy that.
I thought about it. I was just sort of like, I have to get over the hump with the audience of that it's not a uber technical book.
Which I prefer.
Right. I mean, I think anybody would. It's like people would say, they would come up to me and go, would you carve your name in my guitar or sign my guitar or to meet me?
Right.
And it was like, when I was a kid and I met B.B. King, the last thing I would ask him was to carve his name in my guitar. You know what I'd ask him? What are you thinking when you're playing 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
I want to know what you're thinking.
Yes.
I want to know, are you thinking about a girl? Are you thinking about getting off the bandstand and eating pizza? What are you thinking? What motivated you to blow that lick that you did?
But as players, that's what we come from.
Right. But a lot of times you don't get that question. So I was the opposite. So the book is the same way. It'd be like, well, Pete, when you were producing so, what were you thinking of? How did you get over it? How did you accomplish this? Because it wasn't like I took the plug out and I put the plug over here. No, it had nothing to do with that.
But the psychology, I mean, you've got to be in people's heads.
Right.
And I mean, your track record speaks for itself. And you've got a foreword by Bill Bentley.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah, Bentley's the best. I read the book. I read the Bentley forward. I said, that's it. Let's just put this out.
I mean, I would frame that and put it on a wall.
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah, that's I mean, he's certainly a fan of yours.
He's a great guy.
And speaking of fan of yours, I got to bring this up. Now, you've been with Reverend Guitars, since 2013?
You know better than I do. A long time.
Well, and I mean,
more than 10 years.
Exactly, right? More than 10 years.
Because we had an anniversary guitar.
Right, and so I got to play this incredible instrument at the NAMM show, and this is your newest Pete Anderson signature model. So this is the custom. Yeah,
Pete Anderson Eastsider Custom.
Yeah, because you've got the Eastsider S style and you've got the Eastsider T style.
Yes. And the Eastsider was because I grew up on the east side of Detroit. And Reverend Guitars was on the corner of the street I grew up on.
And you broke their window.
And I broke their window as a hooligan.
I got to tell you, though, playing this guitar at the show, and knowing you, and once again, there was a line of people waiting to play your signature model. But what I love about it is, number one, it's not heavy. It's got hollow tone chambers.
Yep.
And number two, you went with a set neck.
Yeah.
On a T-style instrument.
Yeah.
Which is different.
And Gibson scale.
Yep. And it gives it more sustain.
Well, and you'll appreciate this because we both dearly, dearly love B.B. King.
Oh, totally.
He was my main idol of all guys, right? Okay, so I would see B.B. play and watch on YouTube, and I've seen him play live and stuff, and then it was like, and I was fantasizing like, man, I would like a Gibson ES3 355.
Right.
I want the BB. I want that BB sound with a lot of splashy reverb. I want that sound. And I said, I wonder if I could make a Telecaster looking guitar that's disguised as a 355. So this is my impotence for this guitar, was to try everything I knew about it to make it a 355. So it's an ebony fingerboard like a 355. Right. It's Gibson scale like a 355. It has a thicker, heavier bridge like a 355.
And individual intonation.
Yes, individual intonation. It has dual. I made them make dual humbuckers, so it's got 2 humbuckers like a 355.
Right.
Then I liked the finish of the early 60 ES335, right? So to do that, the Reverend said we need to get maple, thin veneer of maple, and then stain it. And we went through a couple colors, and the company went after, like they sent me 4 samples, and I picked out the sample that I wanted. So it looks cherry red, black pickguard like a 355, and then it's got tone chambers like a 355, and it's got, I think it's got it's got koa, so it's a heavier wood. It would be really heavy if it was all mahogany.
Oh, definitely.
And the Gibsons had mahogany and maple because the necks were a little bit different. So it's my version of a 355 in a telly body. And then when I didn't even think about it, and then the owner of the company said, let's do a set neck.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, let's try it. So they got 2 set necks and 2 bolt-on necks as samples, and he goes, oh, you're gonna love this. And he sent me it, and I tried them. I said, oh, the set neck.
Yeah.
It's like, and so it just sustains. So it's a guitar that you could play country on.
Right.
It's not a twanger, but you'll get through. You'll definitely, you'll have the facility to feel like playing a telly.
Definitely.
But it'll play blues, it'll play jazz. Mine has flat wounds and heavy strings, and it's really just.
Well, and it's one of those instruments too, to where, and you and I were talking, you know, certainly with your touring and everything, to where a lot of times you can't take multiple guitars.
Oh, right.
But if you can only take one, this one.
Oh, yeah.
Does it all.
You could do the job.
Right.
Yeah, you could do the
job.
job.
I mean, because you can get the Fender S sounds, you can get the Gibson style sounds, all out of one instrument.
Yeah, I'm super pleased with this guitar.
Well, and I mean, obviously, Reverend is glad to be partnering with you on your continued relationship, because everything that you do with them, you know, people line up, they're on back order, and I think this is the best one you've done with them yet.
I think it is. I mean,
it's the most diverse.
The PA one is unique,
right? The
hollow body one, but I didn't expect this. So that's a pleasant surprise, where I did not expect this.
Right.
It was like, okay, it's going to be cool. And I didn't have like a 355. I got a 335, but I didn't have something to compare it to. I just got it and went, whoa.
Yeah.
This is a different beast.
Yeah,
so
I thought so. When I plugged it in,
yeah,
the tonality of it is just so amazing.
Yeah, it's
with the tone chambers, with the humbucker, and I think
it's not harsh when you hit the telly lead.
It doesn't bite.
No, it's a 355.
Well, you know, and I got to bring this up too, because, you know, being a Detroit guy, you know, and starting out in music, and then, you know, going out to LA, doing, you know, and back in Detroit, you did the standard thing. You know, you worked for Chrysler, working for Uniroyal.
You're right.
Maybe a little time with some ginger ale.
Yeah, you're right. That's all 3 of them.
Before you made the leap to LA.
If that won't make you leave town, nothing will.
But, you know, you go out to LA, you know, and you do GIT back in the late 70s and all this stuff, and then you've become like a guitar icon and a producer. I mean, did you see this progression for yourself over the years, Pete?
Well, in a Zen way, without being too spiritual this early in the morning, but my whole impetus was to play the guitar.
Yeah.
Just play the guitar. And I'm a firm believer in left to your own devices, whether you know it or not, you'll find out what you do. All I wanted to do was play the guitar. I didn't want to write songs. I didn't want to produce songs. I didn't want to co-write. I didn't want to do sessions. I thought I wanted to do all those things, but they're all little steps on your route. So it's all about playing the guitar. So my deal when Dwight and I got going was like, yeah, I'll produce it, sure, yeah, we need to organize this.
Right.
Because I had a skill for organizing.
Yes.
That I always pushed down. I always was embarrassed by it, to be honest with you. Yeah. I was the kid on the playground that like, okay guys, let's get together and go behind the dumpster and start a fire. And they go, yeah, we're gonna follow Pete, we're gonna go start a fire behind it. Yeah, come on with us, he's got matches, you know.
You were the leader and organizer.
I was you know, even the older kids would follow me, and and their parents would go, "Oh, here comes the instigator." Then when I was a little boy, they called me the instigator. So later on, it became a skill, and then I went to Catholic school, and then the nuns recognized that the kids would follow me on the playground. Because in the class, I was like, I wasn't stupid, but I was like hiding. It's like, don't put a light on me. Mm-hmm. The nuns saw this, and they figured he'd make a great monk to go out to Africa and convert people. And I was like, are you nuts? So they wanted me to be a priest because they thought I could convert people to the religion. Mm-hmm. And this lady, the nun, pushed me to be the president of the class. She tricked me, and I was the president of the class. And I was like, oh, God. Then it was like, all right, it's a job, and I had to do it.
Right.
So, you know, like later on, I became the MD in Dwight's band. Unfortunately, I had to fire one of my friends, but I had to do it.
Right.
It wasn't good for the situation, and it was what we needed to do.
But also, we were talking earlier about, you know, being the music director that you became, and then working with people like Paul Schaefer, where, you know, you guys are playing the Tonight Show or whatever, and you have to merge bands.
Right.
That's heavy stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when it's your vocabulary, it's not as oppressive as you think, because it's your vocabulary.
Right.
Like I went yesterday to a great studio here in Nashville called Blackbird, and they have a production class. So we did have one funny thing, actually, and it was like, are you going to prepare to go talk to the production class? I was like, no, this is just what I do. I'm prepared.
Right.
I do it every day. I've done it for 200 records.
Right.
If I'm not prepared to talk about this, I never will be. And then so I went in and I talked to the kids and the young people, and I said, how many? I said, is this your production class? And they went, yeah, we're all here to be producers. I said, great. And I said, I mean, it sounds weird. It's like, where are you going? I'm going to producer school. And I said, but I get it, because years ago I went to guitar school.
Right.
And you're like, you're going to guitar school?
I know. I did that. Yep.
There's no guitar school. Mm-hmm. Yes, I went to guitar school.
Yes, you did.
So it's been an amazing travel log through life.
But now, and I got to brag on you, Pete, because you won't do it. But it's like, to come through all of that now, through, you know, from your early jobs, from your early times, you know, working with Dwight, creating all this great music that's part of the fabric of America, being one of the originators of really Americana music in general, and now to be a published author. It's like, I'm just saying, it's like, okay,
we got one book.
It's still a published author.
Yeah, okay.
And once again, too, the kids were waiting in line. You sold all the books you had, signed them all, and they wanted more.
Yeah.
Kind of like a hit record.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. Somebody said, oh, you finished this book, what's your next book? I said, there's not going to be it took 8 years to get my brain together. I'm busy. You know what I'm busy doing? Playing my guitar.
And producing other people's records.
A little bit, yeah. Only what I want.
Right.
Only what I want.
But I think what you're going to have to work on next with this, Pete, just purely my suggestion, curriculum. Curriculum to go with.
I would love to try to turn it into a curriculum, or at least a 1 or 2 day seminar.
Yeah, and being a speaker just around the country, because this is the kind of information, you know, that you're providing, you know, and you've lived it, to where people are going to grasp onto this and use it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're helping people with your experience and knowledge.
Right.
You know, it's not just like, okay, well, make sure and use the Neumann microphone.
Right, exactly.
Placed 3 inches diagonally
yeah.
from your Fender Princeton amp.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I have done what's in the book many times.
Right.
So it's like, you know, it's usually they say some that can't teach, but I think I studied with Howard Roberts. Howard Roberts could do.
Oh, yes.
He couldn't do and taught.
Right.
He could do, and later in his life, he was like, I'm going to pass this on. Mm-hmm. And he was genius. He was a genius educator.
Right.
His view of the guitar was totally unique to anybody's view of the guitar. Mm-hmm. So it's the same, I'm using the same premise, where I wrote the book basically to get it out of my head. Yeah. I can go back and refer to anything you want to refer to, but I'm not carrying it around with me.
Right.
It's written.
Yeah.
You can read it and I'll go, oh, I remember that. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. And I'll talk for 20 minutes
But
on
also,
it.
it's a testament, and you have real life experiences against the stuff.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it all really happened.
That's what I appreciate when I'm reading it.
Right.
You know, it's like, and once again, for me, it's not a one read. It's like going, you read it, and then you got to go back and read it again to let it kind of, you know, wash over you.
I'd like to see, you know, like a year from now, where somebody like yourself has the book, and there's like highlighted, folded page, highlighted.
Little dog-eared pages.
No. It'll
Right.
be like, okay, now it's a workbook.
I already told you that, on the next jingle that I have to do, I'm using the book.
All right.
And so
Yeah.
I will send you the jingle.
Okay, I want to hear it.
Yeah, so you can,
absolutely.
I want to make sure for all of our viewers, though, Pete, they can get the book. It's available everywhere. It's got ridiculous ratings already on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. It's at my website, www.peteanderson.com, which is a weird name for my website.
but a great place for a book.
For a book. I think it's at Grimey's in here in Nashville.
Right.
It's at Grimey's
Well,
Records
it should be
and
at
Books.
also the Country Music Hall
It's
of
going
Fame.
to be. We went yesterday and
the
saw
Grand
the
Ole
great California country thing, and we hung out there. And the book is going to be in the lobby.
The
at
Country Music
bookstore.
Hall of Fame maybe need to do a little exhibit on you.
We're talking, my publicist Karen Leibziger is here, and we've been talking with them about maybe coming back and doing some little interview gag.
I'd come to that seminar.
Yeah, okay, that'd be
tell
fun.
some friends. And I want to
That
make
might
sure
be cool,
also
yeah.
where, also the guitar, the new Reverend guitar, the custom Eastsider is available now.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's been out since, actually since the first of the year, but it was displayed at the /Summer Winter NAMM in March.
Yeah,
in
that's
Los
where I got
Angeles.
to play it first.
Yeah, and it'll be at the January NAMM in March, the coming next
And
year.
I'll be at that one too.
I'll see you there.
We
then.
will.
Yeah.
We'll do it. Well, I'll tell you what. Be sure and get your own copy of this book, How to Produce a Record, no matter what kind of music you're doing. If you're a songwriter, if you're doing demos, I got to tell you, even if you've been a producer for years, I think this book will help you just with Pete's knowledge, and it's so great of you to share this. Congratulations on the book.
Thanks, buddy.
And congratulations on the new guitar.
Thank you.
And also, don't miss him. If you're out in LA, he's got a Sunday gig at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, at the Tuning Fork, the corner of Ventura and Laurel Canyon.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday at 4 o'clock, I'm there with my band.
With great Italian food and great music.
Well, they have all kinds of food.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
gourmet restaurant, but it's a hippie kind of vibe. It's
Right.
cool.
So you can play all styles of music.
Oh, I play all styles of music. Yeah, at this stage of my life, that's a given.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm going to play what I want to play. Like I had a 12-year gig at the Moose Lodge, and it was the best. And it was like
You can't go wrong with an animal club.
Yeah, exactly. I play what I want, when I want, how I want, as loud as I want, and I'm not too loud. But it's like, no, this is what I do.
Right.
And if it's not working, I'll go home.
Right. I'll tell you what, you got a good gig.
Thank you.
And get your copy of the book, How to Produce a Record. Pete Anderson, the Pete Anderson. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, man.
Always good to
I
see you.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.